Right now, you're hearing music from my brand new Ableton Live pack called Dream Organ. Dream Organ is a collection of lush, dreamy, spacious sounds created from samples of the Yamaha PS20 organ synth. The Yamaha PS20 is very popular in the dream pop genre and was made famous by the band Beach House. It's featured on a lot of their music. It's got some really cool, warm sounds, kind of toyish at times. But when we put it into Ableton Live racks, when we put some effects on it, arpeggiators, and start manipulating the sounds, we get a lot of really interesting and diverse sounds that can be used in any style of music. I've created instrument racks that accurately recreate the sound of the Yamaha PS20, and I've also taken those sounds and combined it with the power of Ableton Live to create stuff impossible with the original hardware and useful in all kinds of music. So check out the Dream Organ Ableton Live. It's available at my store at brianfunk.com. And if you're a member of the Music Production Club, you will get this during the month of July 2020. You can learn more about Dream Organ by going to brianfunk.com/dream-organ. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Music Production Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Funk. On today's show, I have Martin Stimming back with me to talk about a brand new release he's got, and it's a different kind of release. It's hardware gear. It's the DOCtron IMC, or Instant Mastering Chain, which he's just back from Super Booth, sharing that with the world. That is an event I'd love to get to someday, so I'm excited to learn a little bit about what his experience was like, especially on the other side of the booth. And his live performances have been going strong lately, and we're going to hear about that too. And it's great to reconnect with him. We spoke back on episode number 228, and we are somewhere a bit higher than that now. Good to see you again, Martin. Welcome.
Hey, Brian, thanks for having me again.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. We had a great talk last time. A lot of cool stuff came up, and we had mentioned that this might happen again down the road when the IMC came out, and it's really cool now to be on the other end of that, see that it's happened and it's the real thing, and you're in the middle of sharing that with the world.
Yes, that's right. So actually, we already launched it during the last Super Booth, which was, I believe, in October last year. But it was somewhat of a special Super Booth in terms of the date, which was very unusual, but it was all caused by the epidemic thing. So they kind of shifted it, and we released it. And from a personal perspective, it felt like, okay, we worked for 5 years, right? 5 years beforehand. We had 10 prototypes. It's pretty much, I think, 5 iterations of the circuit. So what you're going to buy right now, or what we have on the market, is the IMC 5. 10 prototypes, so many emails, phone calls, money all went into it. And I thought, like, okay, now when it's released, just like a record, then poof, it's there, and everyone's like, yeah, get me one. And reality is like something that I just realized during this Super Booth, the second one, that this was only the beginning. So the real path, the real work which I have to do is still waiting, or is still something that I'm already in. And I mean, launching a high-priced, very high-quality piece of audio equipment is obviously a bit more challenging than just releasing a track on, let's say, SoundCloud.
I guess many different challenges. I guess a lot of the preparation and the hype and the lead up for an album is before the release. And now you've got the gear release, and now you have to go out and basically sell it.
Yes, that's right. And as I'm a musician and not a salesperson in the first hand, I just learn and learn and learn a lot. I learned about export. I learned about FCC and CE regulations, and how to properly send a unit, which costs it costs, just to make that clear in the very beginning, it's €2,500 without taxes, but I ship worldwide, and shipping is on me. So that's the like the generous. Is that the right
I would
word?
say so, definitely.
Yeah. So that's my I come a step closer to the customer in that sense. And yeah, we shipped actually quite a couple to the States already, and two to Australia, one to Japan, quite a lot here in Europe. Still, it could be better, of course. It always could be better, but it's not so much the actual volume, which I'm happy with. It's more the perception and the. It really feels like I'm aiming. No, it doesn't feel. It's true. I'm aiming at the high quality audio hardware, and I'm in a competition which has some very very great sounding names there already. And yes, I'm aiming at this point. I'm aiming against API, Neve, just to name the biggest names and to be a bit exaggerating. Yes, of course. But I mean, before we talk about the background, probably the people out there don't know what it is exactly, right?
That's what I was going to
Yes.
ask you next.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
tell us
cool.
about it, because it is a pretty specific device and a
It,
very,
and, on one hand, on the other hand, it's not,
but it's
but
something we all do.
yeah. So it's a bit it's a bit complicated, but actually it isn't. So it's a portable, and that's the forward thinking point about it. It's a portable 1 kilo carbon housing mastering chain, but it's not actually a mastering chain in a professional mastering sense. It's more, I think, more of it like as a luxury saturator, bus compressor, but portable, in a quality high enough, sound quality high enough that it's absolutely possible to use it as a master compressor on your live set. That's why we call it mastering chain. Just came from the very beginning when I approached the builder. He was like, you're looking for something like an instant mastering chain. Okay, let's see how far we can go.
Instant
And that's how
mastering
the
chain.
name, that's how the name actually came into life, and we couldn't change it afterwards. And it's a little bit fun, actually. So practically, it's a combination between a low and high shelf EQ for very quick adjustments in this in the club, for example, for during soundcheck when like the PA is a bit too weak on the bass, then you can just put some in. It's a very high, it's a very good sounding Trident style EQ, low and high shelf. Then it's a bus compressor, a VCA based bus compressor. I don't know, have you heard of the VCAs, the one that are in the SSL compressors, for example? But it's not a clone of an SSL. It's a VCA compressor, and all of that goes into a saturation stage where we use Lundal audio transformers for saturating and heating up the signal. So the trick is, I'm talking. That's what I did on the super booth. I told this story quite like 100 times, probably, or maybe more.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. So the words they fly easily. It's no problem for me.
Probably
even
very
as a German.
loud too, right? Almost shouting
Yeah. But actually, our tent was quite civilized. I was together with 1010 Music and IK Multimedia. And that was quite civilized, I have to say.
Good neighbors.
Okay, but let's talk about the super booth later on. To finish the IMC sound story, the specialty, the clue, the genius part of it is that saturation stage where we use the audio transformers to heat up to saturate the signal. So what do audio transformers do? They're usually used for galvanizing. No. Doch, yes. It's a galvanized. It disconnects the ground from the signal because it kind of there's a coil and it's a. Oh, I'm so okay. I don't know the right words 100%. So please forgive me if it sounds like I'm talking bullshit. In German, I could say it properly. So it's kind of it's a disconnection. It's a physical disconnection, and the electricity gets somewhat infused into the next coil, which has a very um, uh, which practically means there's only a certain amount of electricity that goes through. All right. And how does it sound? Yes, it sounds like a limiter. And if you use a proper, a high quality audio transformer, then it actually works as a limiter. It's not something that the manufacturer would say, oh yeah, do it, because it's somehow, of course, it shifts the frequency response a bit. It applies a lot of artificial distortion or overtones, not distortion, but like overtones. And this is what we think is heat, right? Is warmth. And it also practically really limits the signal. And we found a circuit that stays right before the amount of electricity where it's too much, and we use the compressor to protect the transformers. So we keep everything quite nicely in control, and you can heat up your signal a lot with it. Yeah, and all of this in a very portable, small package, and that's the IMC.
And I think you might have said you kind of intended it initially for like live performance and kind of like DAW-less situations?
Right. That's where it came from, because in 2015 I decided not to have a computer on stage anymore and played with the DOCtrack mostly. Well, the DOCtrack was kind of the mothership, and everything around was based on the idea of using the DOCtrack instead of Ableton. But I very quickly realized that there isn't any portable mastering solution on the market. And I don't like, when I say mastering, I don't mean the precise professional mastering type of thing, but I need a certain amount of loudness and limitation and possibility of like changing the frequency spectrum a tiny bit, at least to kind of do some rough corrections. And practically there isn't something really portable. Of course, there's the finalizer. There is the good old TC finalizer, and yes, I took it with me for half a year, and then I sold it again because half of the time it sounded shit. Sorry to say. There is the Electron Analog Heat, and also the Auto Boom. I haven't had the boom, but I had the heat, and it's totally. It has the saturation, yes, but and the saturation sounds quite nice, but it's complete. It's still only the saturation, and you don't have any compression or a good sounding equalizer in it. And at one point, I found myself bringing a computer with me to do the mastering job, while I'm so proud of not having a computer on stage. And
You don't get any
man,
credit
I was
for
like,
it.
okay, doesn't make sense. I need to like build something. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you are doing like your DAW-less setup, there's all this dynamic range you get to deal with, and you can very easily be kind of all over the place, especially if you're switching songs and ideas. And you're kind of at the
Yeah,
mercy.
yeah. But I have to say, still, this is something, even in the box, the set should be somewhat balanced. Of course, a track can be like 2 or 3 dB louder. That's not so much of an issue. But of course, the preparation also includes getting your levels and your signals right beforehand, anyhow.
Right.
No matter if it's in the box or out the box, or if you're a band or an orchestra.
Sure, there's some preparation that needs to happen.
I'm afraid, yes.
But I think if you're a lot of the DAWless jamming that I've seen is kind of improvisational too in nature. So it's a little tougher to be prepared for some of that,
That's
some of
right.
those
Yeah.
differences.
Hmm. Yeah, that's right. Especially, I always wanted to have I always brought a synth with me, even when I was playing with Ableton. And yeah, a synth can go crazy totally.
Mm,
High resonance values and open filters and that
right.
stuff. And yeah, the IMC protects the speakers and the ears from peaks that really shoot out. It actually does it. It doesn't sound too nice during like the limiting phase, but it's totally sufficient in the sense that it's limited like physically.
Hmm. But you've also, like, what happens with so many cool pieces of gear is you've found some other uses besides the live situation for even in the
Yeah, in
studio.
fact, it sounds so good that I use it in the studio every day on the
Hmm.
drums. Since I think the last 3 years, any track
Hmm.
of mine which came out, the drums have been treated by the IMC pretty much any track.
Hmm.
Yeah. Because it's so good in gluing and bringing everything to the very front. It's absolutely impressive how it sounds, and it's so fast
Hmm. What
in
do
doing
you
that.
think as you can attribute that to? Is it the type of saturation, or is it what you were explaining with the limiter and the electricity and stuff? This is all a bit beyond my understanding. Gets into like engineering land and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't find the right words, I'm afraid. Um, but so I think it's a combination between the different stages of the
hmm.
box. If you found a sweet spot which works with your heat in the sense of leveling and with your leveling, then it really fulfills the bring things to the very front task, um, pretty much at the push of a button, like really in an instant.
Hmm.
And yes, it's the saturation stage, but it's also in combination with a quite good sounding compressor, or let's say high quality compressor beforehand, that the saturation stage can shine. So it's a
Hmm.
combination, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And so I imagine like the challenge for you, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, because it is so portable, right? And I've seen a lot of pieces of gear go through this where it is a high end piece of gear as well. And yet it's
Mhm.
so portable and it's fitting in a lot of times with a lot of gear, a lot of the DAWless stuff. If you're thinking of like Volcas and things like that, they're relatively inexpensive.
Yeah,
Uh, so that must, I imagine, be like the challenge in the presentation to the customer.
absolutely, absolutely. Getting people to believe me that a box as small as this sounds as competitive as it actually does is quite a complicated task, and I underestimated it beforehand. And when I met reality, I was a bit, well, not shocked, but yeah, I was, yeah, maybe I was a bit shocked
Hmm.
to be honest. I'm seeing like every second comment, wow, that's way too expensive. But I also thought like maybe I talked to the wrong people. So maybe I just like from a marketing perspective, like my target group weren't the right ones probably.
Hmm.
So it's a mixture between a couple of topics which all belong to marketing, and I'm I'm just learning
Hmm.
it in Germany we say the hard way. I learned it the hard way. I think
Hmm.
you say the same.
Yep.
Um, and I'm cool with it. It's just that I wish it would be a bit easier. I can if you want to know how I feel, then just look at how I felt when I just launched it. Look at the comments for the new OP1 Field,
Hmm.
which they I think launched at $2,000
Yeah.
and euros. And yeah, the comments
Oh
like
yeah.
I haven't. Yeah, it's like 7 out of 10 comments are like, this is way too expensive.
Well, I mean, they got that with the release of the OP1 in the first place because it was so small and, you know, it looked like a toy until you picked it up.
Yeah,
But I think back
yeah,
then it was going for about like 7 or 800.
yeah. It
And,
was 800. Yeah, yeah,
you know, I bought it, I think in 2011 when it first came out. I was just so intrigued by it. And as soon as I touched it, I was like, oh, well, I get it now. Obviously, this thing is no joke. But yeah, but now they're, you know, now they're really hearing it for sure.
they're really
Now they
hearing
know
it.
it.
And also the tiny mixer, the
Right.
TX6, is even more difficult to get, I believe, if you just see it from an advertisement or from an article or a news article, because I the day they launched it, I bought it because I had like 2-3 beers and it was like, oh man, I love those tiny portable mixers for live purpose
Hmm.
mostly, because any gram that I can reduce from my live set is a simplification for my personal life, right? So
Sure.
it
And
really helps me.
traveling and
Traveling, yeah, absolutely. Like reducing the footprint as much as possible. So I ordered it, and when I received it, I wasn't sure if I got trolled by Teenage Engineering. I wasn't sure because it's so small. It kind of it's half a smartphone. It's less than half a smartphone. It's
really.
so small you cannot tweak the encoders. Normally you have to use your fingernails, and with it it's okay. To be fair, it
Hmm.
works with your fingernails, but only with your fingernails, right?
Hmm.
And um, the the back, the connections, they are so tight that you need new cables. Like I need to order um, the slimmest mini jack cables there are on the market, because the normal ones don't fit next to
Hmm.
each other. Can you imagine?
I saw a picture online in like a, I think it was a Facebook group, and it was like, finally got my teenage engineering mixer, and then there's one cable plugged in and you can't get the other cable. It's
Yeah.
just like,
Yes.
now I need new
Yeah.
cables.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it has more
And you can get it
functionality than
from
that, right?
you can get it from Teenage Engineering for 12 euros each.
Yeah.
No,
Has it made it into your workflow yet?
no, it hasn't.
Hmm.
But I'm happy to have it because I believe it will one day.
Mm-hmm.
There are use cases that will appear where I'm going to be very happy that I have it. Um, there was the situation at Super Booth where the marketing guy from Teenage Engineering was just on the opposing side of our tent. So I
Mm-hmm.
said before, they kind of they opened up the whole fair, in the sense that they used the surrounding nature for little kind of villages with tents next to each other,
Hmm.
and this gave it all a very um, festival kind of experience. So the weather was nice. You were standing on grass inside a tent, and people just came in the tent and they knew beforehand which was inside. So the people who were looking for the weirdest module, they didn't even show up in our tent. So Ika Multimedia, 1010 Music, and me, we are more of the serious side of no, not serious. Um, um, Yeah, maybe serious. Yeah, I don't find the other word. I'm sorry. we are we are not so freaky. Okay, let's say it from that
Gotcha. A little
perspective.
more
Yeah, yeah,
mainstream use than some
a bit
wacky
more.
module.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes. So we have more normal people just coming in the tent. Anyway, at I think on Saturday morning, the marketing guy from Teenage Engineering came over to our tent to talk to Aaron from 1010 Music, because they have this blue box, right? Do you know about the blue box?
No.
No? Okay, so 1010 Music has the black box here.
Oh,
This is
yes, I've
the one
seen
you know, right?
those. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so practically this is a what
It's
is
like
it? It is
effects,
a
right? multi-effect?
No. It's a
No, okay.
sampler. It's
Oh,
a
okay.
sampler that streams exclusively. So it has the micro SD card. All the data, all the audio comes from the micro SD card exclusively. It doesn't even has too much RAM, I believe. Imagine a combination between a Digitact Octatrack and also has a sample robot. So it's a very, very powerful and portable sampler. And yes, it fits perfectly to my IMC. It's even from the footprint, it's pretty much the same. So you can put it on top, and it's like it feels like it's one. It's like one device. So they have the sampler. There's also a module from it, but this is a 16 pad sampler. I think the voices are much more than 40 voices at once. Very, very powerful. And the blue box has the same housing, but in a blue print. And it's a portable mixer. Yeah. So unfortunately it's only audio. So the listeners
Well,
will need
we will have
to.
it on YouTube, but we'll try to paint the picture as best we can.
Yeah, maybe you can explain what you see. So the black box is a gray box which fits quite nicely which nearly fits in the palm of my hand, right?
Yeah, almost like a portable video game system. Real small.
Yeah.
Yeah. Screen
The
in the middle.
screen is how much is it? Like maybe 4 inches probably. And then 4 encoders next to the screen, 2 on each side, underneath a couple of buttons, play, pause, and record, and very many connectors on the back. And then it's the new mixer from Teenage Engineering.
That is really tiny.
Even smaller. It's like
You
just a
look,
bit.
You look like you have giant
Just a bit
fingers.
bigger than the screen. It's just a little bit bigger than the screen.
Oh yes, that's like smaller than the pocket operators that they came out with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that small. Yeah.
It's a little bit like those portable headphone amps, like Bluetooth headphone amps from FIO, for example, but like the expensive ones, the ones for $500, $600. They have the size, they have the build quality, leather back. Okay, so 1010 Music also has a mixer, which is kind of a competitor, but the 1010 Music costs, I think, 600, and the Teenage Engineering is 1,000, right? And at one day, the guy from Teenage Engineering came to our tent to talk to Aaron, and they exchanged the mixers and had like a 10-minute nerd talk about it. And it was so beautiful to see the competitors, the closest competitors talking to each other and being totally respectful for each other's works and products. That was a very, very beautiful moment. I also made a picture with it. There's also a picture with one of them holding my IMC, I'm holding the mixer, and the other one holding the other mixer. But that's just a joke. Like against those guys, also, but I have no, I don't have anything to say. They're on a different level.
Right. But yeah, that is cool though, that they would, be friendly like that and just realize they're part of the same community.
Yeah, I believe they were like honestly curious about each other. And also Aaron, because we had our booths just right next to each other, so we talk. I talked with the guys from who are building the tent and this box. I talked with them quite a lot, and I kind of bugged him, like, what do you think? What do you think of the TX6, of the new mixer? What do you think? And he was like, yeah, he's California. He's from LA and very like the calm version of a Californian, and he was very reserved. Like, yeah, I don't. There's so much to say, but I don't want to judge it and whatever. And I just remember him saying after he talked to the guy from Teenage Engineering, he said, "Oh, it's a piece of art about the TX, about the new mixer." Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's
And
an
that's what I
element
think it
to
is.
what they do. Yeah, there's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
the LP1 and the new one even is, the screen. It looks beautiful.
yeah,
It's
yeah. I mean, it's design, obviously,
it's
of course,
and
but
I think they're making all their own parts as well, right? Like for the most part, they're producing, manufacturing. This is what I heard somewhere, which
yeah,
surprised me.
I don't know. I don't know exactly.
Mm,
Honestly, I didn't follow teenage engineering at all since the last years because it didn't somehow resonate with me too
mm,
much. But the little mixer really does. Um, I mean, the question is uh, design versus art, and design always has a reason, right? It has
mm,
a meaning in a functional sense, and the yeah, probably there is some art to it because it's a bit weird doing
yeah.
something so small that it's close to not being functional anymore. But it's like really, it's still like it's on the edge. Yeah,
Mm,
I'm I'm impressed. Still, you hear it, I believe. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I'm interested to see how it starts working out as it gets into the wild and people start using it, and
Mhm. Yeah.
because it's also an interface, I believe, right? Um,
Yeah.
so you can use it that way, and that's usually the case with a lot of their stuff. There's more than meets the eye. You look at the OP1, and like when you really get in there, you're like, oh, this thing really does quite a lot, and it's pretty fun to use. There's nothing else like it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
How do some of those considerations factor into what you're doing with the IMC? So as far as like, you obviously have knobs that you can use your fingers on, right? That are
Yeah.
a little more
Yeah.
accessible.
But they're not stepped, which is a which is the reason why a professional mastering engineer will not buy this thing because he needs stepped
Hmm.
inputs so he can reproduce the settings.
Okay.
Mm, we just thought that we don't do any compromise in sound quality, not at all. So we use the best components possible, which results in the price that it
Hmm.
costs. And we didn't thought too much about how it looks and how we can market it, how all the
Hmm.
surrounding stuff happens to be. We just took care that it sounds the best way possible,
Hmm.
and we absolutely succeeded in that task. And yeah, I'm more than happy actually that it went out so well. And also the builder, it's Michael from Oberfranken. It's a little bit in the south from Germany, and they drink a lot of beer and they love the meat still. And he's an older man. He's like, I think a bit above 50. And we became friends during the long time that we already worked together. And that's somewhat, I don't know, it's like an extra on the whole thing because with I would never become a friend with a 50-year-old stranger just out of nowhere, and
Hmm.
the work really connected us. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a big project, right? And to go from concept and then all those iterations you had into a final product, and you
Yeah,
you
yeah. Me
guys
saying, yeah,
got a lot in there in that interface in the front, especially where you have a lot of controls, and it's a very tight form factor too. Like you said, I guess it must. I mean, I don't have the physical comparison in my hand, but it looks like it's probably only about like 5 inches wide, maybe, and well, inches. What should I
yeah.
call
So
that
you
for
can
you?
imagine like imagine two VHS cassettes above each other,
Okay,
but not as long.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost the side view, maybe.
No, no, no,
No,
no, no.
okay.
It's more, think of it as squared,
Uh
close
huh.
to being squared, but the height is like two VHS cassettes. So it's tiny. It's really, it's not as tiny as this incredible
Yeah.
Swedish thing, but in what it competes against, it's freaking tiny. We are competing
Yeah.
against 19-inch
Right.
audio
Racks. And
hardware
yeah.
rack. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Which is not very convenient when you're traveling around, and especially if you're trying to carry your own gear in one shot, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it has to be hand luggage.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. It has to be hand
Yeah.
luggage because waiting for checked-in luggage is just a waste of
Mm-hmm.
lifetime. And
Right.
at one point I decided, no, I will never do that again.
Yeah.
Well, I just bought, and never say never. I just bought for the last concert I played together with a choir from a state-owned radio. I bought a grandmother, a
Right.
Moog grandmother.
So I saw the video on
And
your Instagram with you were going over the
yeah, and
setup and
it sounds so nice, and it's so comfortable, and its layout, and how I reach things, and still because of the half modularity, it still has a lot of potential in freaky ways. Like
mm-hmm.
really, you can really misuse it in a good way. And that was the first time I got. I was thinking of maybe bringing something like this again.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you've been doing some playing out, some touring, right?
Yeah,
So do you mind talking a little bit about those setups and those, you know, exactly how that's looking these days? And I'm sure it must be really nice to just be back to playing again and seeing people.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Monetary wise, it's absolutely
Yeah.
great to be finally making some serious money again. But yeah, also from the setup, like I really used the 2 years of a forced break to rethink the whole setup and to learn using the black box instead of the Octatrack
Mm.
when we're talking about the gear that I'm using. And I mean, in general, the weird thing in what we do is it's so connected to electronics or technology that every time we talk about music, it becomes a tech talk, right?
A
It's
little bit.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the way it is. And I have, like, I'm using two black boxes together with a blue box, and I might exchange the blue box for the new mixer one day. If there still, I need to solve a couple of things, especially an external controller, because doing stuff fast and intuitive, I need at least a little bit of space for the encoders. And
Well, that must be just you probably have those 3 boxes, and that's about the size of an Octatrack from the looks of it.
it's, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's pretty
And it's the
nice.
weight of an Octatrack as well.
Yeah.
The Octatrack is 2.4 kilos, and Black Box is 600 grams. So
Mm.
together with the two controllers, it's pretty much it. Of course, it's a lot more cable work to do, and each of the black boxes has its own USB power.
Mm-hmm.
So the core is the one-shot sampler, and so the black box can also play clips like in Ableton, as long as the black box knows how many quarters are inside a clip. It will stay tight no matter if the tempo is different from the original, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it plays the clips, it plays the one shots, it can sample in pretty much real time. It can play the sample in a granular mode where you can granulize things, which is very, very valuable. So I got two of those. One is the player, the other one is the recorder and live additional and master clock and master sequencer, two black boxes, all combined with the blue box, which works as the centerpiece in the audio path. And to make it more fun, I have an external synth with me
Mm.
always. And this synth exchanges from time to time. And I used to bring the Typhon for the last gigs, the Dreadbox Typhon.
Mm-hmm.
because it's so small, it's so powerful sound wise. The combination with the effects unit is incredible. It's really, really good. But I can totally imagine using a different synth. So the EK Multimedia Synth Pro might be one of those where I just exchange it with. Or even if I want to go all in or go by car, then I might just bring the grandmother. Yeah, so the architecture is really as open in the sense that this synth can be exchanged very easily. It just needs to be maybe a MIDI channel needs to be reconfigured or something.
Well, that's nice because you can then kind of course, keep things fresh for yourself and exciting. But then,
Absolutely, yeah,
based on the
absolutely.
mode of travel, you might
Uh-huh.
leave the grandmother at home on a flight, I imagine, right? And then pick something a little bit smaller in that case.
Totally, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I do very much the same thing with my live performances. I need to be able to carry everything in one shot. That's the rule. I have to be able to carry it by myself because a lot of times I'm playing around like in New York City or Brooklyn, and parking is always ridiculous. And you don't want to leave half your gear in the club and then go get the other half where your car's half a mile away.
All right.
But it's a great limitation. That was the initial thought is I want to be able to carry everything. But I came to realize if I didn't have that limitation, I might have like 25 different things to set up every time. And that's just, I'm kind of bound for failure. There's that many moving parts that you got to assemble.
Yeah, but I wouldn't think so much about the failure. More the musical outcome is not necessarily better if you bring more.
Yeah,
I think that's more important in the end. The finding the right balance between limits and possibilities, seen from a musical perspective, I believe is the most interesting challenge.
Yeah, and I think for the type of shows I'm playing, where I'm setting up a few minutes before I go on, I don't want to have that many connections.
How many minutes do you need?
Oh, I can do it in about 10 minutes. I can put it all together.
Okay.
The way I have it now, and it's just a few controllers. I use a laptop, and then it's not too bad. But if it's a few synths, maybe a couple instruments, you're just bound to plug one cable into the wrong spot and not realize it until you're 20 minutes in. Like, why isn't this thing making any noise? So I always consider that as well. Maybe if I had like the proper sound check and all of that, that's a different story. But not when you're running on there.
But like even for me, it happens on a festival. It's part of the job that is autark. Autark, is that a word like to be completely independent from any outer. I just need power sockets and one stereo input in the mixer, and apart from that, I can do everything on my own.
What is that word?
Autark, autarky, autark. Yeah, maybe it's just a German.
There's a lot of cool German words for things that take us in English like a whole sentence to say sometimes. So I'm just curious. Do you rehearse like setting up and that kind of thing? Like when you're playing a festival, I mean, I assume you have like much less time to less room for error.
No, I don't. No. I don't rehearse setting up, but I made this so often that this really isn't a problem. I do rehearse the set beforehand,
right?
And I always come to the point, and it's weird to be honest. No matter how often I rehearse, when I play thrice on a weekend, the very first gig it's not shit, but it's not. I'm not too happy about it. Like pretty much never. So if you want to book me, a pro tip, book me on the second date for the weekend because I'm just going to play twice as good.
Right.
And it's so weird. I don't get it, no matter how much I rehearse beforehand. Even if I, let's say, start Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like really do a set 3 times the week, and then jump into the plane, it won't be fluent, and I won't feel too comfortable with it on the Friday. On the Saturday, it's a totally different story. Later on that year, I will have a weekend where I play, I think, 6 times in a row, and I'm actually looking forward, because I know that on the fourth and fifth time the sets are going to be incredible, because I don't give a shit anymore. It's just, oh, sorry, just like I don't care, and I will be so tired and shaking and like, oh, but oh yeah, I'm gonna play. I'm looking forward.
Yeah, you're just in the groove at that point. It takes time to
Absolutely.
just kind of get there. Sometimes there's just a period of adjustment and all of that.
Yeah, and like my job always is a weekend based in and out thing, Friday, Saturday usually. And I didn't found a way of kind of skipping that uncomfort for the very first gig. I have no clue how to get rid of it.
Hmm. I would imagine it's probably a little bit more in your own head, right? Where you're probably talking about the top couple percent here, where most people aren't going to really perceive this.
Probably, yeah, okay, yeah, could be,
Yeah.
could be, but still, like it's a the way my life set is designed is based on the possibility to leave the path, the determined path, even when I never determine a certain path. I have tracks that belong to each other and that I always play after each other, but I don't know, when I enter the plane, which will be the first track, or which direction the set is going to go that I play later on. I always decide a couple of minutes before the set, like 15 minutes before. Still, the moment of leaving the path and doing something totally freely is what I have as a possibility in the structure of my set, and it's actually something that I want to achieve, that I want to go to. And for that, I need some inner calmness, security, I don't know, something that obviously only comes from when I already proved yesterday that I can do it, and then I can be free somehow.
Sure.
So maybe that's why I need to prove it in reality always and always again. Even when I did it last weekend, I forgot in the meantime. So crazy.
I get that though, because a week is enough time for all that doubt to creep in and then just,
Absolutely. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
like,
Which is for the body, by the way, is quite nice, because like I don't have any sleeping issues, because the body, even when it's every weekend, the body feels like, oh, it's an exemption. Oh, it's an exemption. I'm gonna be back in the normal groove, the sleeping awake groove,
right,
very soon, and it's just, by accident it's different now,
right.
and every weekend by accident it's different. Yeah.
So it's not 7 days in a row every single week.
No, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Um, what do you think? Is there like a moment that you feel it, or is it just kind of like a natural thing when you say, all right, we can kind of deviate from the plan here? Is it just sort of a brave, like reckless thing? And
Yeah,
yeah,
brave.
just a
It's
leap of
it's a it's a
faith.
moment of bravery.
Hmm.
Yes. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and then that's what's so cool about performing like this and in your way, and when you have your ideas and your songs, but you get to decide, and you really don't need to worry too much about if other people will follow along, is you can just kind of on a whim, 5 seconds ago you didn't know you were going to do this, and then here we go, we're off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I need to do a little bit of preparation. So, for example, I can easily like record just 1 or 2 bars of the playing track so that I can kind of keep it on hold and jump back if I feel like, but I'm like stay in the loop from that track. And then when I tweak that loop and when I add something, I'm on the path of leaving the original, right? Coming in that situation, being strong enough on the inside is, yeah, it's really a matter of bravery, because so many things suddenly can go wrong, or maybe they even couldn't, but I'm afraid they could. Right? It's a mental topic, not so much a question of am I technically being able to do so.
So that loop then becomes a little bit of a safety net, right? So like if you find something's just not going to happen, you can kind of return.
Yeah, but to do something which the people love, in the sense that, for example, I cut away the bass, I do tricks which double up on each other and open up the filter on the synth and play another effect coming from somewhere else, and then freeze the loop originally and reduce even more bass and put everything in the reverb, and then go back in with the proper drop on the original track again. This feels a little bit like a skateboard trick, with the task of standing on all 4 wheels and just keep going. And I believe this explains it the best, because if you don't feel comfortable and you're afraid of finishing that trick, you're pretty sure gonna hurt yourself. So you need to have the confidence beforehand.
That's a fun way to think about it, because it is, because like the bottom sort of comes out when you take all that bass out and you're filtering. It's almost like you're in the air, and then
Yeah, and you
when you
do a
hit the
trick,
ground,
but
you
you
better
need to
hit the
come back.
ground.
You need to come back to the moment with the bass. So that's
Yeah.
I think on Ableton. Ableton has this reset. You can easily map a controller button on your arrangement, which resets all the parameters that you wanted to with the push of one button. Right?
Yeah,
So
there's, I think maybe you're talking about this like Max for Live solution where
no,
you
no, 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 no,
recall.
no. It's in the functionality of Ableton in general. It's a question that you can just
Like jump
use
back
one
to a
button.
scene.
No. I think you can apply a controller to. You can apply more than one controller to a parameter, right? On Ableton. So you can just apply a button that always triggers a certain value of this controller, and this button can be applied to a couple of controllers. So if you have like a standard state of values on that one button and tweak them all over the place, you always know at the push of the button you're going to be back where you started, which practically means you're back on your skateboard going on.
Right. Okay. I'm thinking maybe we're talking about like in the macro devices, we can recall all the positions.
I
Maybe.
believe it isn't even that complicated.
Okay.
I think it's a question of using the controller, using a controller in the normal way Ableton has been designed from the very beginning. Yeah, it's possible there. Yeah. And on the Electron machines, for example, do you have a Digitakt?
No, I had a rhythm though.
Okay.
And
The rhythm didn't have that functionality, which was a bit of a shame. So the Takt line has this functionality where, of course, you can save a sequence and reload this. But the funny thing is, or the real powerful thing is, if you temporarily save it, which happens with function yes, and then you can tweak your sequence all over the place, and if you press function no, it jumps back to the saved state.
Right.
And that's pretty much the same. That also does this, okay, I'm back on track. Because you can go totally wild while knowing that being back on track is just function and no away from you. There is a little bit of a dangerous situation when you by accident press function and yes, and suddenly you save the
Crazy
wrong
part.
state. And yeah, then you have a problem.
Right.
Yeah, but this is like one of the problems where a normal listener would say, yeah, well, I don't, was there any problem? I didn't hear anything, but
Yeah.
I was sweating big time. And yeah, of course it happens, and it's only 1 centimeter away from each other, like half an inch.
Right.
But yeah, that's an incredible, powerful feature.
Well, that's the fun of playing live, right? Like if everything
Absolutely.
always
Oh,
worked
yes.
perfectly, sometimes you got to fall off the skateboard to
Not.
keep it exciting.
Sometimes not.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, everything works perfectly until it doesn't.
How much do you pay attention to how the crowd is reacting to what you're doing, especially when you're in these moments of adventure, going off the beaten path? Is there
Honestly,
anything you look for in particular or listen for from the crowd?
no. There's something. So I play with in-ears. At one point, I decided I cannot take the bad monitors from the usual clubs anymore. Like my ears couldn't take it anymore. So I decided to go with in-ears, which of course disconnects you pretty much completely from the audience. Nowadays, I bring a little mix pre with me. Let me show you that guy. That's the mix pre from, what's the name of the brand? Sound Devices. It's usually tone for movies, like film tone, location recording. It's made for those guys, and it has 3 inputs. So what I do is I use the stereo output from my IMC into 1 and 2, and carry a little tiny mic with me for input 3, and this thing kind of combines it all together. And I can also record the set, which is nice, and I monitor everything here. And it also records the 2 tracks separately. So later on, if I feel like, okay, I want to push a little bit, or want to show the audience on SoundCloud how much the people in there loved it, I can record
That's
I
what the
can put
microphone's
the,
for.
yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
Right.
But what I realized also beforehand, so it wasn't it's a little bit of a flaw, honestly, not being able to hear any reaction from the crowd. But I'm practically, it doesn't do so much of a difference, because in the moment where I feel comfortable, the people do so. And that's probably the magic behind playing live. But also as a DJ, I wouldn't be surprised if it's pretty much the same. In the moment where I feel comfortable, the people do so, and the people like it. It's maybe it's the strength of music that the honesty lies in itself, so it doesn't need to be pushed or translated any more than the honesty is already in it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's almost like a giant hypnosis type of thing happens where everyone
Yeah.
tunes in. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I think the best performances anyone ever says, right? It's like I wasn't even there hardly. It was just we were just in it, and we weren't thinking about anything, and it was just all gelling together kind of magically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess those vibes, whatever it is, right? The waves of sound become just this thing that you don't really need the to check to see if it's working. It just works.
Also, like, what would happen if you? So yeah, there are situations where I do check, and where it goes wrong. So
Mhm.
I had this one situation in Berlin, I think it was last year, so one of the very few gigs we played last year, where I was brave and thought, okay, I'm going to leave the 4/4 path and do something a little bit experimental. And there was this one girl that I kind of connected the energy from the set with beforehand also. I just saw her like at the outer skirts of my viewing range, but she had like a really nice way of dancing, and I could really connect with the energy. I felt she was very connected with my energy. So I was kind of had a little look after her. And in the moment where I left the 4/4, she left the dance floor. And I think she even how do you say, like, she did that.
Yawned. Yeah.
She yawned, and I was like, "Oh shit! Are you serious?" And
Right.
so I played two of the more experimental tracks for my Ludwig album, which we talked about. And then once I came back with a 4/4 groove, she was there dancing again. Like,
Hey,
yeah,
I
but
mean,
usually I really don't look after what the audience does, because I cannot I cannot really, as a live act, as a DJ, there might, I'm pretty sure there is a difference as a DJ, because yeah, it's a different art form, and the art form for a DJ includes looking at the crowd and feeling, getting a feeling for them, and also kind of taking their hands and showing them something new. But therefore, they need to know where the audience is. Actually, I think I remember Solomon saying quite often that he needed just a couple of hours to bring the audience to where he wanted them to be. And as a live set, I have no idea what he's talking about. I have no clue, because I cannot play so much differently. Of course, I can play the tracks that I have in the way they are combined are the question between um, success and failure. Absolutely, no doubt about it. But I cannot do anything more. And
right.
this mostly relies on how I feel. Yeah.
I guess if you have to check, then it's not happening.
Yeah, I think you get the point here.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's different. There's kind of like a different point with the DJing and then performing. It's
Yeah.
a little bit of a, and I think even as an audience member, you're going on a different journey.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's got to be a lot of fun being back at it, and then also, you've got all this exciting stuff going on with the IMC, the Instant Mastering Chain. A different type of performance, I guess, when you're at Super Booth on the
Oh
other
yes.
side trying to explain it. But
Hmm. Hmm.
but something cool, like, that it's nice that you're supplying something that isn't really there. There's no other real option. So if that's something you're looking for, then this is the way to go. And yeah, I think it's, of course, that it's for a specific audience, specific people, and not maybe just the general average person necessarily. But if that's what you
No,
need,
it's for professionals.
yeah.
That's what it is. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a professional live performer, even a professional music producer who is willing to pay the money for a compressor, because he knows the time he saves while using it is pretty much worth the money he invests. That's the point.
Yeah. Well, that's always like my favorite kind of tool. It gets me there faster without as
Yeah,
much hassle,
yeah,
because then you can make more music. You can do
yeah,
more work. You can,
absolutely. Yeah. Guys, buy more hardware, not necessarily cheap synths, but proper compressors and reverbs and what else
instant
is used
mastering
for
chains, for
instant
instance.
mastering chains. Yeah, so I think the what I meant with saturation, just to clarify that a little bit, I'm talking about something what the culture vulture does, or the distressor. It's a very, it's a compression full of character with loads of artificial harmonics, which is something that we receive, or we think is bringing everything to the very forefront of your speakers. And of course, you can achieve that with software, but it really costs time, processing power, latency. Saturation is still that one topic where software doesn't really get the depth and naturality as analog hardware has. So, everyone who's willing to invest money in something that simplifies his life, simply because it comes a lot better out, like how you send it in. Was that right grammatically? I'm afraid it wasn't. So it increases the audio quality a lot, but it's not really quality in the sense that it's crystal clear or something. It's just in a pop cultural sense. It's louder, but in a very pleasant way. It's not aggressive or screaming or something. It's not distortion. We're still on the saturation path.
Yeah, and I know what you mean. I mean, it's putting music to tape, for instance. Even there's
Yeah.
there's a texture that comes out. I can only describe it as like a three-dimensional texture that it's suddenly, when it's done right, it just kind of, I haven't found another way to do it than to just actually do it the old-fashioned way.
Like a bigger tape, or one of the classic consumer tapes?
No, like real, like I got the quarter-inch
A
real.
professional quarter-inch. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, but like even the consumer ones, the little cassettes, even they
they have character.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the my track Una Pena, old but gold, it has this very strong synth line, and this synth line became strong because I saturated it in a normal cassette recorder.
Yeah, that's cool. I love
That
doing
was the
stuff
only
like
time
that.
I did it, to
Yeah.
be honest.
Well, it's work, right? It's not as easy as some of the other methods, and I think especially if you're not sure where it's going sometimes, you know.
Yeah, costs time playing, recording, replaying, putting it in the box again. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it is easy to just click on a few things and gets you a percentage of the way there. But I do think there is something special for it, and I love that you're bringing it out there to people, and it's cool that you're getting use out of it. And I'll have to listen back to the last record with that in mind about the drums, that you processed all the drums, just to get a sense of what's happening there.
Yeah, do it. That's especially on the Ludwig album, where the sounds themselves are unusual, or not as punchy just from their origin. I think the device really succeeds in, like, also. Yeah, okay. I don't want to, like, I don't want to make like advertising too much, but I'm like, I strongly
You have to, though. That's your
I have to,
job now.
yes, yeah, bro, that's a problem. Probably that's a little bit of an issue that I have. I'm afraid of doing advertising. But what I also recognized, it has this, but that's probably something that good analog hardware has. It reacts still very musically. Like, even if something complex, or let's say like a complex groove pattern with bass drum, snare, and then percussion in the background and the shaker, it doesn't destroy the overall mix and the
Like that
balance,
relationship, yeah.
the relationships. The relationships and balance stays intact, but everything is simply louder and more at the front, but it's not becoming flat or weird or unbalanced somewhat, because that's something that I feel is very difficult to achieve with plugins. That at a certain point, mostly when it's at the loudness or the attack or forefront that you want it to, then it also becomes flat very easily. It sounds, the dimension is gone. And this doesn't happen on my hardware.
Well, it's good to know. So we can send people to instantmasteringchain.com, right? Is that where you do all the
Yeah,
ordering and everything?
yeah.
They can learn a little
Watch a
more.
video of me telling the same thing I told
There's
here,
some good
but with
audio
audio.
demonstrations. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely gonna do more of the audio demonstration, A/B testing, and also during the next month I will upload links to the audio in the video so you can hear it in a good quality and just check it back on your own. But this is just future plans I have.
Yeah, and I guess if people are in Europe, it looks like a lot of Germany dates, Portugal I see there. But if they want to catch you on, I guess this is like the festival circuit, right? They come out to see you play too. Yeah, like about every weekend it looks like for the next month or so. In
It's
July.
I have a new plan in which of course doesn't work, or I'm in the luxury position where it doesn't work out, because my plan was, or what I decided together with my wife, that I just gonna play one weekend a month to reduce the carbon footprint, the whole traveling thing, and to kind of, I got 3 boys in the meantime, and I just want to be back home. But as you see, it didn't work out in the sense that it became 2 weekends every month, because playing on the festival from Solomon, and when Solomon asks you to play on a festival, it's not possible to say no. And I mean, literally, it's not possible.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah. So I won't complain still. The plan really is to reduce the live play and focus more on the studio work and the IMC. To reduce the footprint, to be more back at home, and also to kind of get out the weird need in like gaining more and more and more. And for me, it's also monetary. It's enough when I play one weekend. And probably one thing which would be nice for anyone to kind of not going further than you actually need to. But it's easy to say, and our like economic system is totally not designed that way. So I won't judge anyone.
No, you're
I
right.
try not to judge anyone.
I heard it put succinctly and very nicely. I thought enough is a choice, and you decide where that is. But you're right. The push is, well, you could do more. You could get more. You can do more. You can keep going. You can, and at what cost?
Yeah, but like an animal, like a really dangerous predator, doesn't do more than he actually needs.
Right. They don't eat all of the zebra. They just take what they need. Well, if the animal did, they'd get, big and fat and wouldn't be able to catch any more zebra. And I think in a way that's sort of what happens to us, where we burn ourselves out and everything suffers around us. So I think that's very wise of you. And also, it makes it maybe even a little more special when you do come out to play it. It's more of an event.
All. That's what I hope. Unfortunately, the first time always will be a bit off, and then the second time will be great.
So catch the second show of the series, everybody.
Yeah.
For that subtle difference. Well, I wish you a lot of luck with all this, and with the touring, with the IMC, everything, with the boys, with you name it. It's always great to talk to
Thank you
you.
very much.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for coming by. And we'll tell everybody, of course, they can go to stimming.org, and they can also go to instantmasteringchain.com, and we'll put some of these in the show notes, some of the videos as well, so they can check it out nice and easy.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for taking the time yet again. It's great talking to you. And thank you
You're
all
welcome.
for listening. Have a great day.
Bye.
Hey, if you enjoyed the Music Production Podcast, please consider giving it a review on your favorite podcast provider and share it with a friend, somebody that you think might enjoy the show and get something out of it. That would mean a lot to me. And if you want to check out more of my work, including sound packs, tutorials, etc., head over to brianfunk.com. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.